Welcome to Cycle Breakers and Moneymakers, a podcast for women of color and first gen who are breaking generational cycles and glass ceilings by going places no one before them has ever gone. I'm your host, leadership coach, and eldest daughter of immigrants, Mariela de la Mora. I left a 16-year marketing career to create a multiple six-figure-a-year coaching business as a single mom. Each week, you'll learn how to build unshakable self-trust, become in demand, lead with confidence, and make more money by being more of who you are. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cycle Breakers and Moneymakers. I'm your host, Mariela de la Mora. I'm a leadership coach and business coach for women of color and daughters of immigrants. I help them to get booked out by being fully who they are through their thought leadership and attract more clients and speaking opportunities. This episode is going to be I want to talk to you about how I through a client retreat in Mexico. Just happened this weekend. It was in Puerto Vallarta. It was absolutely beautiful. It was unlike anything I've ever seen done anywhere, which is why it actually taxed me so much emotionally, because that's how it feels when you're creating something that doesn't exist. The more I have learned about leadership outside of the conventional, corporate, even capitalist, white-centric way of leading, the more I realize that what my body naturally wants to do is much more how people of color interact with one another, how they lead one another, how they think about leadership, what it is that they need. And my retreat was absolutely a reflection of that. And I wanted to share this with you because I think you're going to take away some things from this episode that are going to show you or inspire you for ways you may want to lead a group program, for how you may want to run like workshops or things that you've learned where you're like, gosh, I learned it this way, but it doesn't feel like me. If you wanted to throw events, how you'd want to throw those. Essentially, if there's anything that you have been doing or you have in your vision board or in your heart that involves bringing people together in any capacity, this episode is going to help you, because I'm going to talk to you about my thought process of putting this together and my intention, how my intention actually came to life without me having to state what my intention was. I'm going to say that again. In this retreat that I held in Puerto Vallarta, I had very clear intentions, and I didn't have to state all of the intentions in order for those intentions to actually come to life in the attendees, in their takeaways, in their behaviors, in their connections. They just happened because I made decisions to support the intentions that I had. And that is the power of knowing what is the purpose of me bringing these folks together. And if you're clear in that, that's going to answer a lot of your questions for you. Right? So before I actually dive into this episode, I also just wanted to acknowledge the fact that if it sounds a little different, it's because I'm recording this episode on my phone and my voice memos app instead of in Riverside. And that is because I'm recording it in the midst of ICE terrorizing the immigrant community. And it's just a day where creation and getting things out feels a little more difficult. And this is what I coach on all the time around like, what is a human honoring way of running business? What does it mean to run a business as a marginalized person who is constantly grappling with, survival responses? And rather than trying to make something a mind over matter thing, I just honor what would make this easier for me. And I think that is a very important question. What's easiest for me? What comes naturally to me in order for this form of expression to come out and exit my body, right? So I'm walking back and forth between my room and office and my daughter's room, and it's actually been pretty good. I just recorded an episode prior to this. So again, this is all part of you creating your own way of doing business that I'm going to talk about. So first of all, I'll tell you about the retreat. So this wasn't my first event. My frame of reference for this event was that I previously threw a live event, and I'll tell you what I mean by live event. I previously threw a live event for my mastermind, Reclamation Mastermind, last year, February 3rd through 5th, 2024 in Mexico City. So it was a live event because it was meant specifically for folks who joined Reclamation Mastermind in that cohort rather. And it was meant to kick it off. It was meant to lay some foundations. It was meant to connect the people in the mastermind so that they met one another and were able to form deeper connections that would last them for the 12 months that the mastermind lasts, right? So that was my intention, was how can I bring people together up front so that they can get to know one another, so that they can form these deeper connections that will last them throughout the mastermind. Because I saw in previous rounds of reclamation that when connections were built up front, people got better results, right? That's just the case across the board. And very, very few groups actually that I know of that exist, especially masterminds, which are meant to go so deep. It's one thing with a group program where it's very confined, like there's like a start and a finish, but masterminds hold space for so many things, life and identity and safety and all these things. Like you go so deep and so personal that if you just show up and people aren't actually like connecting with one another, they're missing a big part of what the transformation could be. But that doesn't just happen on its own, right? It has to be cultivated. And what happens is your clients get better results. The coach then isn't coming in and putting out emotional fires as often because people feel safer, because they're literally looking around and they have people they feel seen by, they have people that they can talk to, they are seeing people get coached more vulnerably, which when there's vulnerable coaching and honest, like people are posting honestly, they also feel safer. Because think about when you feel unsafe. Naturally, what humans do, you'll see birds do this too. Like any animal, if one of them starts flying, the other ones start flying. If one of them starts running, they all start running, right? When you are not in community, you can't see signals of safety anywhere. It's like you are in isolation, which is why when you have an experience and you feel triggered, you actually don't know if you're alone or not. And that's terrifying when you're doing scary things. So what makes community so healing and what helps people get better results in safe community is that they have a flock. So they're looking around and all the things that they thought were just their problem or just their inner experience, they look around and it's normalized. And not only that, but they feel like they have people to lean on and that they can be of service to as well. So for me, from the very beginning of Reclamation Mastermind, that was honestly the number one intention that I had, because I knew that my teaching, my thought leadership, my processes was number one, only going to be able to be received by people who felt safe enough to receive it and could only be applied by people who felt safe and clear to receive it. So if I can help you with the connection and the safety piece, and I can help you access yourself and your voice and your safety and your ideas and your creativity and your thought leadership, and my processes and my decisions and my spaces and my events were based on that, then you are essentially accessing, I think about like how they say we only access 20% of our brain, right? And there's another 80% in there. If you can only access 5% of your self-trust and your voice and your thought leadership and your creativity, if my job is to help you access 10% more, 20% more, 30% more, that's the most significant thing you can ever do, because then anything that I offer on top of that, you will be able to bring it through your own lens of your trust, your ideas, your voice, which means you end up having better ideas. You're able to take action faster. You're able to feel safer in business, and you just get better results overall. So this was always my intention. So in the live event in Mexico City, that was my intention, right? Just to bring folks together. And I learned a lot through that experience, I might add. So I think that part of what happened with that was I was looking at other events that I had gone to and holding that as the barometer of what an event, should be like. And so I wound up making it, in retrospect, way more overcomplicated than it needed to be. I ended up investing a lot more than I anticipated. I ended up investing like $18,000 to put together this weekend. I had private chefs that served breakfast and lunch. I had a videographer and photographer that was there all day. In retrospect, you don't need a photographer and videographer there all day. It also interrupts kind of like the flow of the event because you feel like somebody's kind of always looming. I also didn't pick a space that held the number of people that were there. Granted, I booked it before I launched, but then we ended up having 13 clients in person. I had 2 friends there in person supporting me. And then I had the chefs and I had the video. It was just crowded, right? So space-wise, that was an issue. Another thing that I learned was that yes, it absolutely helped people to connect and get to know one another. And those relationships did carry. Even the folks who couldn't go in person, I had 4 people that attended virtually, but because I made it so that they also felt like they were part of the room, they also developed deep relationships with everybody else. And that did carry through. So the intention worked. However, what I realized with that I wanted to do differently was, number one, I didn't need to have as many bells and whistles as it did, because the intention that took away from the connection piece, right? It was just like, I didn't need the chefs there all day. I didn't need to teach. Like I started to teach, and then about towards the end of day 1, I realized my clients didn't want me to teach. they were just like, can we just get coached by you? And then I switched gears. I literally ditched most of the slides that I created. And the reason that this is important is because now what it taught me was, if you could do it on Zoom, don't do it in the retreat. Don't do it at the live event. I could teach on Zoom. So why am I sitting in the living room in Mexico City teaching with slides, right? I could do that on Zoom. So that taught me, next time you bring people together, think about what connections are better suited in person. Think about what can't happen on Zoom. Think about what would be difficult to replicate on Zoom, and then bring that to the in-person event. So that's what that taught me. So then I switched over and I started life coaching, and then we had some activities. We had some breakout sessions. Those were super fun. I brought people, like art supplies and these little boxes. We did like a messaging exercise. It was really fun. So we did it that way. So that's one thing that it taught me is, if you're going to bring people together, what is it that actually happens better when the people are together that would be difficult if it was virtual? Or what is it that the group can actually add that is better than just individually coaching each person? How can you connect people? So it also taught me that the connections will happen organically, but it also helped that we had activities that helped people connect with one another. Granted, these were brand new people, right? So anyhow, this was all Mexico City. It taught me what I wanted to keep doing, and it taught me what I wanted to change. So after that, I kind of took everything and then I said, okay, my intention for the next one is, I don't want to have an event that kicks off a mastermind, because what happens when people are already grappling with the decision of, do I want to join this mastermind? It's going to be 12 months. It's $10,000. Like, they're making that decision. What happens with the live event is that it also adds the extra decision of, can I make the live event? And if they can't make the live event, it feels often like a loss to the people who can't go, because they feel like, oh, well, this is included and I can't go. And so I don't know if I should join, because does that mean other people are going to have connections and I'm going to miss out on them, right? So for the next one, I decided I don't want it to be a live event. I don't want it to be connected to the mastermind in that way. I just want it to be a retreat. And I want it to have a different intention, which is, what are the conversations that could change their lives? What are the stories that could be told? What are the things that could be shared? What are the revelations that people can have in person that would be difficult for them to have in Zoom? Because number one, they need more time. Number two, they need to be more relaxed and in a homey environment. Number three, they need to be able to trust each other in order to even have those conversations. So that was my intention with the Puerto Vallarta retreat. So with that being said, intentions for that were what I just shared. Secondly was, I wanted it to be in an expansive place where you just felt rich by being there. Had windows, like it was in this 3-bedroom, 3-bath condo overlooking the ocean. There were windows everywhere. I had looked at so many hotels, right, in Mexico, and they all had like conference rooms with no windows. And I was like, why would I bring people to Mexico to stick them in a conference room with no windows? But oftentimes we go to these conferences, right? Especially if it's about business, and that's where they stick you. And then what happens is they have to make the conference room beautiful so that you can feel like you're in a beautiful space. But Mexico is a beautiful space. So I didn't need decor. Because I had this stunning 3-bedroom condo that helped you feel expansive. So that was the other thing, was like, I want the space to feel expansive, but natural, because I knew that no matter how beautiful the hotel was, no matter how decorated the conference room was, and I went and I toured hotels and their conference rooms in Mexico. Like I looked in Playa del Carmen, I looked in different places. At the end of the day, I was like, I feel like I'm at a business meeting. I feel like I'm at a conference. I feel like I'm at an all hands from my previous company. And I knew that that would activate corporate persona. So I was like, it cannot be in a conference room. Let's get that off the list. Then I thought about, could it be in a hotel that has a suite and then I could bring everybody there? But problem with that was hotel suites aren't really designed to be able to like hold that many people. People need desks, and no matter what, like the rooms weren't that big and all of that. So I took that off the list. So then I said, okay, Airbnb. I needed to have a very large common area because I wanted there to be different nooks for people to be able to move freely. This was my intention. So it's like if I'm walking through an exercise or if I'm coaching someone, I want there to be a large enough space that people can sit at a table with their laptops or their notebooks if they want. But I also want them to be able to cozy up in a corner if they want and go rest and go stretch their legs or go outside, go on the balcony. I didn't have to tell people that. Like, they're not kids. I'm not like, you could get up from the table if you want. I just was like, they're going to get up from the table if they want. Do what you want. And as I was running through, the things that I was talking about and facilitating the discussions and coaching people, I saw people do that. They were either all there, they were watching the person get coached and they were writing notes, or they were going back to the sofa that was behind the living room table. It was all this one big area, or they were getting up and getting themselves a snack or a drink, or they were going out on the balcony and just sitting there, taking a breath and coming back and rejoining the group. And the beautiful part about this is how you get to honor your body and your humanity in business when there is still a 2-day thing where we're together from 9:30 to 6, right? Like, it's still long days. And this is what I don't like about going to events that are this long, that's in a conference room. As much as they're wonderful, I already know I have to suppress myself in order to sit in a chair and then there's very strict timing of like, this is happening at this time. And then you have to be on all the time. And it's like, they have to, it's granted, like, I think when you go to big events, that's just how they have to be. But I end up completely drained at the end of it. And I didn't want to create that experience this time. So I was like, I want it to be intimate and I want it to be a space where people can kind of move around freely. That happened. The other thing that I saw happen, one of my intentions was, how could I create a space where people talk about the hard stuff in business, the reality in business as a woman of color or daughter of immigrants, that if you just had that conversation, you would feel so normal and seen. Like, think about how if you have a business, your friends and family don't fully know you. It's like you have a secret life, right? It's like you have a secret life. Like, they might be catching up with you, all the things, but they don't know. They don't know the things you're actually grappling with. They don't know what your brain is so busy thinking about. You're like, okay, so when I do this workshop, like, I'm actually wondering, like, how do I build a bridge from like this teaching part to, talking about my offer, or like, actually, on the sales call I had, like, that's what our brains are thinking about. Or we're thinking like, gosh, like, right now there's so much happening in the world. Why is it so hard? Like, I just keep getting stuck. Like, I have all these ideas, but I keep doing anything but taking action. We all know. We'll be like, oh my gosh, it's probably like your nervous system is probably in fight or flight right now. You're probably in freeze. You just have to like, it's like you think about these things, or they'll be like talking about all the different things that trigger them in business, or the things they're celebrating, or conversations they've been having with family members. Like, what ended up happening was I overheard conversations and people were talking about their relationships with their mom, their relationship with their dad, their relationship with their partners. They were talking about their childhood. They were talking about their like money stories. They were talking about their different, like, difficult things that they had gone through in business where they felt like they couldn't talk about it. They were talking about how they felt or regarded working with clients who were making a lot of money and what they made it mean. They were talking about all of these things that I just was like, I didn't tell people, hey, go talk about this. Like, I can't do that. All I could do is set the intention and create the space where I knew those conversations would naturally happen. And there were moments where I'm like, I'm not even part of this. I just created the space. Granted, there were parts that I was teaching a concept. We were applying the concept. I was coaching people. I was facilitating conversations. There were times where we had our laptops open and I was sitting down with folks and we were going through their sales call intake forms and all the things. We were doing all the tangible things. But in between all of that, we were talking about deep things that require time and trust. We were talking about what was happening in the United States in the immigrant community, where we were sitting and just feeling sadness together. We were doing all of these things together, and this was my intention. And what the outcome of this was, and we did a reflection circle at the end of it, and they were able to reflect this back to me, that they felt safe and free to go and make a lot of money. Many of them were like, I'm not afraid to make money. I just didn't have clarity as to what was holding me back. And we found these very intricate things that were getting in the way that were very, very specific to daughter of immigrant community. And they wouldn't have been able to come up if I didn't host the space with that in mind. So literally the main kind of teaching part, the main discussion that I led was around 6 leadership blocks, or 6 leadership related upper limits, which affected mindset, safety, and identity in terms of getting what you want. So essentially the 6 main things that stop you from getting what you want. The 6 main things where you want the thing, but your body won't allow you. You want the thing, but your mind won't allow you. You want the thing, but you keep quote unquote sabotaging it. I talked about 6 things specifically from the lens of being a marginalized person, why that's normal and how to work through it. And then shifting perspectives so that people understood, I want this, but I'm showing up in this way versus that way. And it makes sense that I'm showing up this way because this is what I think it means to be a service provider. Or they had all these different, ideas and blocks. So I thought, if that's the main thing that I did, rather than teaching 10 things, what is the one shift that I can help everybody make that could change their lives, change their business, change their relationship with it, that would require them to feel safe to talk about it, share stories with each other, and that would actually like create the biggest impact. It was me talking about these blocks, right? So I set such a clear intention. I saw how it landed. I saw how it was received. I saw how it shaped the things that they realized about themselves. I saw how we had discussions about it. And that is what I want to create more of. That's really why I'm here. This is why my business exists. It's not just to like teach concepts, have people apply it, get the results they want. It's actually, how do I get the human on board with their lived experience in mind? How do I help the human get the clarity, the capacity, and the safety to make more money, to sustain demand, to show up the way that they want to show up? Because oftentimes, almost every single time, there's a part of you that is not on board. Your mind might be on board, your bank account might want it, but there's a part of you that's not on board. And that's what we talked about on the retreat. So what I learned was with this is that when you're creating something that you haven't seen before, as I was with a business retreat that was neither conference room roundtable, nor was it yoga and breath work in the jungle, right? It wasn't that either. It was neither of those things. I was creating something that hadn't existed. When you're creating something that hasn't existed, you're going to doubt it. You're gonna wonder, like you're gonna wanna naturally veer towards what you've seen, but you have to sit with your intention. Anytime you bring humans together, you have to sit with what is the intention in me bringing these humans together, whether it's in person, whether it's virtually, whatever that is, right? What's your intention for it? What do you want them to do? Who do you want them to be? What do you want them to believe? What do you want for them by the end of this? That's number one. I say number two, I also learned that whenever you are helping people through something or with a transformation where the mind and body are at odds, right? Whether it's mindset, safety, whatever, the environment, the creation of safety and people feeling like they can bring whatever to it is actually more important than the information. Because the information, the logical brain will agree with, but the body and the mind and the identity, all those is going to contest it. So that's the other thing. I also learned that it didn't need to be like, it could be bougie in a different way. Because last time I had private chefs, I almost hired a private chef this time, but I looked at their menus and I was like, this is hella fancy. I don't want this for breakfast. Like, I personally don't want like little fancy crudité. Like, I don't need that. And I really had to pause and just be like, which part of me wants to hire a private chef? Is it the performative side that's like, oh my gosh, it's so bougie, I hired a private chef? In reality, I was like, I mean, I'm looking at these menus and they're like, all right, but like, I want good ass food from Mexico. So instead, what I did, instead of hiring a private chef, was I brought in breakfast from my favorite brunch place in Puerto Vallarta. It's called Coco's Kitchen. It's so good. And they had a blend of American and Mexican. And I loved that because then I was able to bring in chilaquiles and I was also able to bring in pancakes and eggs and French toast and things like that. And everyone loved it so much that they went there for lunch. And I was like, oh my God, this is like best decision ever. And then I had people being like, I don't even like breakfast, but like I like their breakfast, right? So I was like, see, I just had to get over this idea that like it needed to look a certain way. And I was like, my intention is that it's good ass food and that people feel like they could just get up, serve themselves what they want. And I didn't want a private chef there like lingering. That's what happened last time. We had like 2 chefs there pretty much the whole day. So that was a decision that I made. No private chefs. Instead, I picked a restaurant that I knew and loved. And what I really did with this was I took them to a place that I knew very well so that I knew there's no surprises here. I already know where I'm bringing food in from. I also brought in groceries from a grocery store there that is like so freaking good. Anytime we go to my friend Erica's house, she lives there. We go to this grocery store. It's called La Comer. They have like a bakery. They have a juice shop. They have a cafe. They have like a cheese counter. They have like all these things in the store and it's so freaking good. I was like, you know what? I also want to pay Mexican companies and Mexican vendors. So on the way from the airport, we stopped by La Comer. I placed a grocery order for pickup. They had it ready for me. We brought it to the house. There was like green juice. There was Greek yogurt. It was just like bougie in my way, right? It was like this fully stocked. They got to show up to this fully stocked fridge with snacks and like all the things. So like while they were getting coached, they were getting like bags of air popped popcorn and they were drinking their green juice. And it was just a freaking vibe. Like that's what what I wanted. And they loved it, right? Another thing that was important to me was paying Mexican vendors, like I just mentioned. So as I was looking for Airbnbs, I looked for one that was specifically Mexican owned, which is actually a lot harder than you think. When you look at Airbnb hosts, they tend to just be white with white names and like live in, American states, like it shows where they live. And I just really wanted to work with a host that was Mexican. And so I verified that. His name was Javier, and we booked his Airbnb. And so there's that. And same thing with my photographer. I found somebody. So it's like I found all these vendors and I had to like work with them on WhatsApp and, and like email and things like that, just because they don't have as much of like the technology, and they're like onboarding and all of that is not like it's not like America. That's fine. But I was willing to go through, a little bit of a more challenging process in order to work with Mexican vendors. So I worked with the place that made my signs. I worked with the photographer, the grocery store that I shopped at, the Airbnb that I rented, all of those things. And then even with the videography, I hired one of my clients, Camila, who is an amazing photographer and videographer, to film a little piece on me. So it's just like, hey, we're just out here, like I'm out here supporting my people in this event. And that was so, so important to me, because I've also been to events that, took place in a Latin American country, but then they were at like a hotel, and it's just like, I just know we're coming here and we're spending all this money, but none of it is actually going to the local economy, other than the fact that people from that country work at that hotel. And that just didn't sit right with me. Like I was just like, how can I keep as much of the money as possible? And granted, that's a lot easier to do for smaller events than it is for bigger events, just because of who owns the property. So that's absolutely a reality. But for my intimate event, I thought it was very important for me to spend the money with the local economy. Another intention that I had for this retreat was that I wanted to be able to be close with my clients and actually have like downtime where I didn't have like my coach brain on. But I also didn't want it to be that we were together all the time, because number one, I know it's hard for me to shut my coach brain off, which is why I intentionally didn't have everybody stay in the house. It's also hard to find a house with that many bedrooms that isn't like off in the jungle or something. So I was thinking like, I also didn't want it to just be like, okay, I'm teaching, I'm coaching, and then like you just go off on your own and I don't see you again until tomorrow. So I found a balance in between, because I've also, I think that if it was like a much bigger event, the host absolutely has to like preserve their energy and all of that. And I can absolutely see that. So this time I was like, how can I kind of do a little bit of both? So what I wound up doing was like, I on purpose didn't say that like dinner was part of the agenda. I just said like lunch is on your own and dinner's on your own. I'm going to bring in breakfast every day. I brought in breakfast on Friday and Saturday. And then on Sunday, I took everybody to brunch on the beach. Beautiful table, flower arrangements, flower petals, all the things. Like I worked with the events team. And so I was like, I just want to get them breakfast every day. But for lunch, they were on their own. Everybody needed a break to get out of the house anyway and just go connect. Even without me, it's also important for my clients to connect without me. And then for dinner, I was just like, let's just see. The first day, I was very wound up, granted, just because it's a lot of work to hold space for folks, even though it's my favorite thing in the world to do. But I knew, and I had my friend there as well, my friend Liz. This was another like requirement. I don't think I'll ever throw an event without her, or like one of my closest friends who knows me, who can call me out to be like, you're so good at being on. You love your clients so much. Your clients love you so much that they want to be with you all the time. But I'm seeing what you're doing and you're gonna burn out, where I had to be like, okay. And at the end of the first day, at the end of the first full, coaching day, we went to go get a massage. And then we went and found this cute little restaurant on the beach where there were musicians and they had a fireworks. And it was just so nice. And I felt so good that I felt very energized for day 2. And I was like, it's my responsibility to also manage my energy and figure out what I need in the moment. Right? So that was the other thing, was how can I manage proximity, knowing some of my clients were staying in the Airbnb with me, who I adore. And also I know I won't shut my coach brain off fully. So I had to build in little breaks for myself as the facilitator and the host of the event. And then I found I was able to go into day 2 with a lot more energy, clarity. And by the end of day 2, I was just like, where are we going to dinner? Let's go to dinner at the place we went yesterday. And it was just like, I was just ready to go, because sometimes the days were going to like pretty late, or we were going to the rooftop pool and just like having conversations up there. there. And like really, as much as it was like relaxed and chill and all of that, for me as the host, I'm always going to be on, right? I'm always going to be on. And I think that I did a pretty freaking good job. And I had like the best friend there to help me, Liz. She was also capturing like behind the scenes and things. So that was another lesson, is like when you're bringing people together, think about how are you going to replenish your energy to be able to be clear, be focused, and just honor your needs while you are there being in service of others. So yeah, overall, it was absolutely amazing. I spent about a year thinking about it. When it came together, I was just like, this was everything I thought it would be and more. People there were like, don't change a thing. Please don't. This changed my life. And I realized like I'm sitting on something that, I mean, honestly, if a million people knew about it, it would be like the most life-changing thing. Like I would have no room to like take people on, but I was very, very cautious about this. Like I only talked about it publicly a couple of times, mostly because it was more important for me to test out this theory, this of like how I wanted to host an event. It was more important for me to do that. And the folks who went were literally like, before the event even happened, they were like, hey, when you have one, I'm in. Tell me whenever it's happening, I'm in. But tell me first, because I want to make sure I'm not traveling. So like, it was just wonderful to be there with people who were literally in before they ever knew where it was going to be or when it was going to be. And it just was the most wonderful thing. And it just made me so grateful to do this work. It made me realize like, gosh, like I work with the most brilliant clients. Like I hear them talk and I'm just like, they're such experts. They care so much. They're really, really smart. They have big hearts, and it's an honor to hold space for them. And I just held it as like a very big responsibility. And I do anytime I bring people together that people trust me, not just with the investment, but to, make the flight, to say goodbye to their families. One of my clients came with her family. My client Eunice came with her husband, her son, who's 1, and her mom. They made it into like a family vacation. So I also loved that. I love having retreats in places that are vacation destinations as well, because you can go and make it like an extended trip. So that was another intention of mine. So I loved, and actually she wound up saying that she loved that this retreat allowed her to be a mom and a business owner at the same time. She got to show up for the event, and then she got to go downstairs to her place. She was staying in the same building, and then be a mom and be a wife and just enjoy her time, and that you could have all these different parts coexist. So to me, that was just so beautiful. And I thought about that as a mom, how like, it might be hard for you to go somewhere and leave your child. But like, what if you were going to a business event, but it was in a vacation destination, and then you got to have somebody go with you, and then they helped to take care of your child while you were in the event. That happened last year with my client Rosa, who's a single mom in Mexico. She had a friend come with her so that her son could be there, and then she got to have her son. And then when we all did dinner together, she brought them. And it's just so beautiful to me. Like this is my intention for business, is human first business. How do we serve and honor the human and what their needs are and their identity, so that they can make a lot of money, so that they can build sustainable businesses, so that they can bring more of them and their voices into their business. This is actually what we need as women of color. It's really a space to integrate the different parts of ourselves in service of our missions and of ourselves. Is to integrate, not compartmentalize. And that's what we did in Puerto Vallarta. That's what we're doing in Reclamation. And so I was asked like, when is the next one? And I'm like, it's coming, but I have other business needs other things right now. So I'm listening to what the business needs. The business needs other things right now, and I need other things right now, but we absolutely I will be hosting another one. It may be that the next one is like at my house or something. I know that my job is to create spaces where women of color and daughters of immigrants are able to talk about all of the parts of them that affect their business, not just, their marketing or their messaging. It's also their identities, their stories, their sense of safety, all the different things, because that's actually how the best results are created. So yes, that was just my little recap. It was really, really so good. I'm going to be sharing more photos and videos of it. I just got them back from the photographer, but it was just really such an honor for me to be able to host a space for women of such high caliber who I think so highly of, and who are people who others have on their vision boards and who already are thought leaders in their industry. And for them to say, trust Mariela and the spaces that she creates, and for them to literally fly to another country to be with me and the space that I created. And so if you've ever been thinking about hosting, like I said, bringing people together, start with the intention first. what decisions would support this intention. Normalize the fact that when you're creating something that you haven't seen anyone else do, it's going to feel a little wrong. You're going to naturally want to mimic what other people have done. It's going to feel wrong to you. You're going to have some resistance. Listen to that resistance. Allow yourself to do something that you feel is like off the wall or wrong, and just go with that, because the intention is more important. And the intention is going to guide your own approach to a group or an event or whatever it is that you're doing and bringing people together. And your intention is also going to answer a lot of questions for you as far as how you want to run things. It's going to determine the experience that your clients have. It's going to do all of that. So start with that, and it's going to answer all of your questions. So that is it. Thank you for listening. If you loved this episode or you had more questions about, you hosting retreats or anything, or spaces, send me a DM on Instagram at mariela.delamora. And if you're interested in hosting or attending the next one, also send me a message and let me know. Again, I don't know how long it's going to be. If you are interested in Reclamation because you have been following my account or my clients and you see what they're doing and what they're creating or what they're saying about the program, and you're interested and you know that this is a space that you want to be in, or at least you want to learn more about it, you can join the waitlist at my website at marieladelamora.com/reclamation. You can join the waitlist and you will be the first to know as more information is available on when we're going to open doors. And that is it. I will see y'all next week.